Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream scene. Glad to see that Twitch has decided to work for us today. That's awesome.
You're welcome.
Thanks to Renee for bringing the mixer powers down upon Twitch, I guess.
Get it.
We got a really awesome show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about change, which is kind of a broad topic, but there's a lot of different changes that happen with streaming, and I know that Hunter is really excited about this episode. Hunter, how you doing?
I was prepared to have a fantastic day and a fantastic show, but we had an elongated beginning to our pre-show was extended because of the downtime on Twitch, and now I'm having an amazing day. It has been elevated like threefold after the
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. And this is for our Patreon, where you can find the behind the stream scenes videos.
Honestly, I don't think we have anything else to talk about anymore.
We talked about everything already. So
I guess if you want to watch this episode, you should just go to the Patreon.
Oh my god,
check it out.
Plug it in. Bob muted now.
Do they let me post links? God fucking damn it! I'm trying to shout you guys out.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Mouth.
Oh, that's
Mods.
true too. But so tackling changes, weathering the storm, enduring the changes. Everybody, like, I was talking about this the other day. I think this is the most universally applicable subject. When I did a call for guests, we had 78 replies, 78 people who were like, yeah, I can speak at length about enduring changes. And I was like, oh, what did you do? What was going on? It's like this. I went from this kind of stream to this kind of stream. I had to go back to school. I had 3 kids in 2 months. I don't know how it happens.
Oh my God.
Like all of these stories that people had about this.
They signed up for an adoption service and they signed up for 3 adoption services.
Or it's just a turbo pregnancy. Just like thump, thump, thump.
But everybody, like Monty Python. Like everybody's got these crazy stories, and that by itself sold me on this being like the biggest subject, because I think that really clarifies that not only have a ton of people gone through it, everybody's going to go through it. It's a thing that you will inevitably hit at some point in your streaming career. So we're joined today by 2 people who can speak at length on exactly this subject. 2 friends of ours. Bluejay.
I mean, I can speak for
Renee.
exactly 1.5 hours.
After that, Renee's contract got over. You need to pay her more if you want her to talk longer.
After that, I have to run up and talk about
Extended stay. Well, so
exactly 100% more than you're paying her now is what you need to pay her to talk.
Oh, we got that.
I mean,
2 times the $0.
Tell us who you are, Bluejay. What you got going on?
I mean, didn't you just tell them who I was? I'm Bluejay.
Your name. It's not like an identity.
Right. Okay. So I was born 29 years ago, Friday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Bluejay.
Do we want to go from the beginning, or like, do we want to go from when my mom got pregnant, or
as
like
early as you feel that it's appropriate and essential?
Anyway, I've been a full-time broadcaster for almost 3 years now. I've been streaming for almost 5, I think. I don't know. Time, it goes. Before that, we were talking about during the pre-stream, like I've moved around a lot in terms of like what I wanted to do with my life. So I was gonna be an actress. I was hardcore in a theater, and then I like 180'd into culinary. I got a degree in culinary. I went to culinary school, and I worked in a restaurant, and I made wedding cakes, and then I like 180'd again and started doing Twitch stuff. So it's been a wild ride.
My favorite like side job that you ever did was wedding cakes. Like what an awesome little pivot. I just personally love wedding cakes. And I saw some
beautiful
they used to make.
Yeah. And then I also worked at a comic book store for a while.
Yeah.
But that was more like I like nerdy shit. That's never changed. I've been watching Star Trek since before I could walk. Like that is a maintained through line. But yeah, so and also in terms of like, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but like changing gears in terms of like stream content. I've been variety forever, but that the variety itself has changed. So yeah, that's my rap sheet, as it were.
What about you, Renee?
Their rap sheet.
Yes, we're in jail now. This is prison.
My name is Renee, and I came to say no. Okay. My name is Renee. I have been streaming since 2011. 7 years. I went full time in August of 2013, I think, and I've been full time ever since. And then June of this year, I switched from Twitch to Mixer, which is the platform that is owned by Microsoft. And I've been through that major change. I've also moved basically every single year of my life, so I've kind of been in the habit of just upheaving everything and moving it to a new location. I think that's just like how I am as a person. So
well, and your platform change too seemed to coincide with and or inspire people to at least consider and start looking at and then moving over to other platforms.
On the record, it was coincidental. All right, it was
right.
No, Renee, you are an industry leader. You are an influencer.
There's a lot of people.
You are a game changer.
There was like a lot of people switched over to Facebook on the same day that I announced my switch. And they're like, what's going on? What happened?
Everyone's leaving. It's the end.
Like, the omen.
It's just a coincidence, like a really crazy coincidence. But yeah, I had nothing to do with that. All right.
Well, okay. So Loco, what about you with the switches that you've made? I mean, since like part of the introduction here is actually talking about just in the briefest of ways, the ways that we've transitioned, some of the struggles we've hit.
Yes, changes that I've made. I've streamed pretty much the same time for the entire time that I've streamed. I've not switched platforms. I'm still variety.
You got a dog.
I did get a dog. That was a lifestyle change, I guess.
You change clothes every day, presumably.
I do that sometimes, most of the time.
All right.
I mean, sometimes she switches it up and she doesn't change her clothes every day.
That's the change itself is not changing.
The absence of change. I'm really a bad candidate for this, but that is why I'm the host of the show, because I can guide the conversation and learn from you guys.
Now I'm curious.
Made big changes.
Yeah. Okay.
What are you curious about?
No, I'm not. That was
just a general. He's just curious.
Okay.
You know?
You're just curious. Okay.
Hi, I'm curious.
Hunter's bi.
I like calzones too. I do. I get around.
What about you, Hunter?
One of the things we were mentioning pre-show in terms of life before streaming went from doing random nothing jobs that you do to just pay the bills you have no interest in, to game design, to a degree in philosophy, to full-time career artist, which I did for the better part of a decade, over to streaming. Like big change from one to the next. Within streaming itself, the changes haven't been particularly dramatic. Before I started streaming, I was going to be a competitive professional Hearthstone streamer, which a lot of people don't know if they haven't been in the channel the few times I've talked about it. Complete surprise, considering that I've streamed for 10,000 hours on full variety, but it was going to be, and I changed it the last minute because I was like, there are these like 3 qualities I need in my stream. I can't get them if I do that thing. Let's switch it up before actually diving in and hitting it up, which is interesting. But I did have one major, I want to talk about this at some point later. It doesn't matter if it actually shows up, but one major incident with streaming that was like a big crippling hindrance. And during that one, that was like there were a lot of lessons there. So I think that pretty much covers it for me.
I just needed to mention, because I just saw it, that on the Patreon, there is an about the coaches section, and Hunter, your picture there is so good. You're like, he's like wearing a suit jacket and like got the nice bokeh in the back. It's,
oh wow, look at that.
Right? professional as shit.
Yeah, it's a nice photo.
Thank you.
Right? He looks like a pro.
Yeah, so I just saw that and I had to mention it. Everyone go look at the Patreon.
You'll find that image, patreon.com/StreamerSquare.
Yeah, just go check it out. It's a good picture.
Wow.
And while you're there, maybe give them some money. I don't know.
Bluejay, we need to hire you. You're great at this.
Well, have you seen my Patreon? Let me just like fan myself erotically.
I mean, that is true. Is that photo gonna go up there?
I'm gonna put Hunter's photo up. Yeah.
His Patreon is one of my favorite Patreons.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's another change. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of
ones.
different types of changes that I want to talk about. I guess I want to start with the most common one that I see is transitioning from part-time to full-time streaming. And Bluejay, you said you worked at a comic shop. You balanced that with streaming.
Yeah, I actually had at one point like 3 jobs and was streaming. It's 3? A lot. I was living in a very expensive area. San Francisco Bay Area is like one of the most expensive places you can live. So I worked at the comic book store like 1 or 2 days a week. And then I worked at a restaurant. And then I also worked for my mom. And then I stopped working at the restaurant. I was just working for my mom and streaming at night when I got back from work. And I was lucky in that the job that I had was, like I said, with my mother. So I could be, and she was the one that actually encouraged me to go full time. I was making a good amount of money with subscription. Well, actually, this was before I was partnered. This was like 3 weeks before I was partnered, but I was making a good amount of money with subscription services like GameList and with tips. And so she was like, you should give more time to this. If it doesn't work out, you can have your job back, which a lot of people don't necessarily have.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I had that nice, what's it called?
Safety net?
Safety net. Yeah. Which some people, they have savings. That is their like safety net. But for me, the decision was made by, am I making enough to more than cover my bills? And if it doesn't work out, will I be okay? Right? Am I going to be homeless if like streaming doesn't pan out? And I was living with my boyfriend at the time. So if I personally had a hard month, like we would still be okay. Also with my mom saying that if I needed to, I could have my job back. So I knew that if streaming full time, like if it suddenly dried up, I would be fine. Then of course, like 2 years into full time, I moved to Seattle and now the safety net is completely gone because I cannot have my old job back.
Right.
And my parents aren't even around if I wanted to be like, well, I'm going to lose my apartment. So, but I feel like after almost 3 years of full-time broadcasting, I can fairly reliably say that I either A, like know what my income is going to be month to month, or B, have developed the tactics to grow my business. And if things are hard, like I know things that I can do to improve those things. And my mom still gives me an allowance. I'm kidding. She likes bits. She loves dropping bits.
A Twitch-based allowance.
That's what my mom, that's like the allowance that my mom gives. I'm like,
yeah, she just loves that like animation. She loves it. So I'm just like, I keep the bit cup on my stream just for her. I'm like, hey mom, look at that. Yeah, you want to? That's the sound that my bits make. By the way, it's
so
gross.
with moving to full time. Were you just relying on Twitch at that point, or like, because you have a Patreon now, but you haven't always had one, right?
At the time that I became full time, I was not partnered yet. I actually, like, surprise, got partnered like 3 weeks later. Renee remembers because it was on her stream. But I had a GameWisp account, which is another, it doesn't exist anymore. They've closed that portion of their business, but it's another subscription type service at the time, because like things improved so fast. Patreon did not have the ability to have on-stream alerts, and GameWisp was a lot more integrated with Twitch as a system. And it had, like, you could send through recurring alerts every month. Mm-hmm. So it was very similar to what a Twitch subscription would be, like, experientially. Whereas Patreon, even if you could, I think there was one service at the time that was doing Patreon alerts, but it would only send through the first time. So I decided to go with GameWisp.
It's like not month to month, just the first time somebody's
subscribed. Yeah. So the first time they put in the subscription, it would send an alert, but you could never like re-put through a subscription alert for Patreon at that time. I don't think you can anymore either. It's just the one time. But yeah, so I was trying to find something that duplicated Twitch's subscription experience as much as possible, because things that are familiar to people, they are more likely to use.
Right.
So I had a Patreon before this, and then I switched to GameWisp. And then maybe like 9 months to a year into using the GameWisp, because I was partnered then, I actually shut it down and canceled all the subscriptions on the GameWisp because I wasn't using it as much. But that was my like alternate revenue stream when I was first starting out broadcasting. It was mostly tips and then the GameWisp. Whereas now I kind of have like 3 sources. I rarely, if ever, get tips anymore. Most of my income comes from Twitch subscriptions, Patreon subscriptions, and paid role-playing games.
So that's a weird sort of phenomenon by itself, one that I think doesn't get discussed often enough in general. Mm-hmm. It's sort of the kind, it's a thing, it's sort of the kind of the thing that we'll talk about like privately every once in a while, right? Like just among friends, it's like, oh, this thing is kind of drying up and I don't really know what I'm going to do. Oh, have you thought about, spreading out into, something else? A lot of it feels like ideally when it comes to revenue, and this is true for you as a person, no matter what you're doing, if you as a sort of a more robust 21st century lifestyle involves having a bunch of different things that you're doing.
From what I've read,
job.
Yeah, as a self-employed person, and it probably counts for like people who are working low-paying jobs as well. As a self-employed person, you should have 3 different streams of revenue. So if one of them dries up,
if one gets cut,
then you'll be okay.
Right.
That was at least like what I was recommended. I think it was on a stupid YouTube video or something, but it makes sense because like what you're saying, like if perchance like all the role-playing shows I was on stopped paying me, then I would still have 2 other sources of income while I like figured that shit out, because change is hard.
Well, because those are the uncontrollables, right? Like you control a lot of things and how you respond to certain things and what choices you're going to make in certain situations, but the situations themselves that arise are the uncontrollable ones. Whether or not you're going to get more tips this month versus last month, like you cannot determine that at all.
Well, and that was so hard for me. When my tips dried up completely, it was almost immediately. It was 1 month I was getting tips, and then the next I was getting like $100.
Yeah, I actually had the exact same thing happen to me, but I didn't even really anticipate it happening. But I was talking to my management at the time, and I said, I get this certain amount of money in tips each month, but I would really like it if I got the same amount of money in sponsors instead, because I didn't want to rely on those tips. And the second I got those sponsors figured out, literally probably a month later, no tips. I make maybe like $100 a month in tips, which is still like $100 I don't have, but that's not it's not nearly as much like what I was making previously that I could actually like live off of as like a real revenue stream. So it's crazy how that could just immediately just go away. And I didn't even anticipate it. I'm just super happy that I guess I planned for it. I don't know if maybe it was a
so how does that planning, I guess. Yeah, how much work do you think somebody should do in advance to prepare for the uncontrollables?
I just think you should never rely on tips as money you should, if you get tip money, you should just keep it in your PayPal and never touch it ever.
Well, I think part of this too is just like never rely on anything. Like one day you have like 500 Twitch subscriptions and the next day you have 100. Like it's never like, this is just like throwing numbers out there, but nothing is ever permanent. And especially this industry is changing
for sure.
so quickly.
Yeah.
Like it's not just tips, right? You have to make sure that like if something dries up, you have another thing.
You're also at the mercy of like your platform, with Tumblr, like changing the way that they run. YouTube is always making changes that, screw a lot of people over. So it like in content creation, being able to handle change and being able to be flexible and being prepared are super important qualities.
Yeah.
That you need to consider.
I think the main reason why I started deterring from tipping, what kind of like set that thought process in motion was that I noticed that as I grew, people wanted to tip me less because they didn't think that I needed it as badly.
Right.
Instead go to, which is fine. It's not
the perception part of it is weird.
You can use your money wherever you want. I don't care. But I found that a lot of people said like, oh, like, sorry, I can't tip, which you don't need to apologize for not tipping. That's just weird. But I noticed, and this is how I figured out, was people would come in my stream and say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't tip. I was on this person's stream and they're trying to get partnered and they had like 10 viewers. So I tipped them like $100. And I'm like, that's really cool. That's awesome. That you'd support the little guy in that way. But I noticed more and more people were going to smaller streamers and tipping them. And then, so my tipping revenue was going away. And that's kind of how I was like, well, let's, I guess if the reason I'm not getting tipped is because of my size, what can I get from my size that those people can't? Which
exactly. That perspective right there, I think is brilliant. And I think it's uncommon, unfortunately uncommon, because it's so often that we see it even within ourselves. Any individual, no matter how wise we can seem sometimes on the outside, when we have like a finely crafted tweet, on the inside, we're like screaming into our own mouths.
Yeah.
Honestly, why is this happening this way?
Yeah. I mean, for a really, really long time, I unfortunately, and I had this like really ugly opinion about it, because I was just like, well, why are they tipping those people? And like, obviously, right. I was like, I need, like, if everyone just stopped subscribing to me and went to go subscribe to the little guy, we would literally just flip flop. And now I would be the little guy.
Be the same.
What's going on here? And it got me really frustrated until finally I just like took a step back from it for a little bit and was just like, okay, hold on. Let's like be a rational flipping person right now. And I realized that I should really be viewing it in that regard and not so much like, well, where's my tips and all that.
Why me? Yeah.
Why me? Yeah. What am I doing wrong? It's like, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just, you're in a different stage.
Well, I think
that's been hard to move past. Yeah. That's been hard to move past as a broadcaster, because so much of it is so different person to person that you see one person getting like 1,000+ sub points in a night and you're like, why doesn't this shit happen to me? But like, I don't know, like if you just wanted to be exactly like someone else.
Bluejay, if you just play Fortnite, you could just basically be like the female ninja because you got the blue hair already.
Right. If I was, then I could never play with men and my life would be so much better.
God, could I be your wife?
Yes.
Yes.
You can be my wife. My wife.
Another interesting dynamic with going part-time to full-time is with Twitch, you have the affiliate system now, which is a very easy entry-level, I guess, feature that gets you bits, the ability to accept bits, to accept subs, and plan out actually, like, you don't have to get to partner or be close to getting to partner to make that full-time leap. Like, you can now actually make that income prior and at least be able to, like, start to see, like, what kind of success you would get if you just time, right? Like, it's a lot easier to make that transition when you already have proven that you can make money.
I think have a lot of issues with the affiliate program that Twitch rolled out.
Yeah, when it first came out, I was kind of like, the thing is like you look at it and it's Amazon wants more money. Like that's what affiliates, in my mind, the central core of that is, because the more people that have sub buttons, the more subscription revenue Amazon is getting, not just the broadcaster.
My partner button.
God damn it, Renee. You did that on purpose. But I mean, like you have to recognize that Twitch is a business. And that's not going to stop happening.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that I agree with you, Loco, that there is an opportunity to gauge how much interest your audience has in supporting you financially with the affiliate system. I think that there are other ways like external non-affiliate subscription services that have kind of died because Twitch has the affiliate thing. Like how GameWith, it used to be, if you're not partnered with Twitch, have a sub button anyway. And then as soon as the affiliate program ran out, it was like, well, we don't need this anymore. And that kind of evolution, I think, will continue to happen with the streaming peripherals, like how bits being used more has probably lessened the need for like a PayPal tip button. And that's that. It all comes down to the fact that like Amazon and Twitch is a business, and the more like financial external Twitch related stuff Amazon can like pull under its umbrella, the more money they make. Yeah. So I think that affiliates is helpful in terms of like gauging whether or not your community is willing to support you financially, but there were other ways before that, and there will probably be other ways in addition to that you can do that like math, as it were, to decide if you have enough to give up your full-time job. I think that it's probably wise to like, instead of like cutting your job entirely, like maybe cut hours. If you can.
See, that was my issue with the affiliate program, was the language in which, and the non-transparency that happened when they rolled it out. Like people, I met multiple people who were super stoked, like viewers of mine and friends of mine who were like, I got affiliate, look at my email. And they're like, Twitch said blah, blah, blah. And people didn't know that was an automatic email that was sent to you. All you had to do was have like a minimum 5 viewers and you were immediately affiliate. So people thought that there were definitely people that were working towards affiliate, but there were also people that just got it and they're like, well, I'm an affiliate now, so I'm going to quit my job. So many people didn't understand the language of what it was. They didn't understand that, like, sweet, you got an affiliate, but that doesn't mean you need to up and leave and quit your job. I think you're right in that, like, it's a good way to judge like whether your community is there that can help you support you. But so many people looked at it the wrong way because the language was just completely different. Like that's not what it sounded like in the email. People thought that they were getting individual emails the same way that you get a partner email, but it was literally automatic that you got the email.
So before affiliate, the partner, getting a partner badge was like the same thing where it's like, oh, I'm partner, I made it, like I'm good, like I don't need to worry anymore, I'm gonna quit my job and go full time. So people were making that mistake at that level. So I feel like at least with the affiliate system is like you get that taste of the hype of, you know, achieving that thing and opening up those revenue streams without making that huge leap. Like you get those mistakes out of the way early, right?
I mean, it depends on the person.
For sure.
I feel like when it comes to such a young industry that is growing and changing so quickly, you have to take every single step forward in terms of like your financial security with like a huge grain of salt. I'm mixing my metaphors here, but in general, if you are taking a step that will maybe change your like revenue source or make it like your money to live is coming from a different region, like you need to make sure that you have like at least a few months of reliable income to be like, okay, I can maybe predict month to month what my income will be, and it's enough to support me. So now I do the thing, versus like, I just got partnered. I've never had a sub button before. I don't know what my income's going to be like. So let me just quit my job now.
Let me quit my job and stream 12 hours every day for the next 6 months so I can make this a viable career. It's like, sweet. That's a really great way to lead yourself to immediate burnout and where you're going to hate every day. Like,
it ruins the career for yourself.
That's what a lot of people did, though. They're like, I'm partnered and now I'm going to just go balls to the walls. And for some people, it totally paid off. But those people were obviously the loudest people. You see it all the time. You see people go from 0 to hero on Twitch every single day. But that is not how it happened for most people. And I think people are just get so excited about possibly being that person that they get like lost in the sauce, basically.
Well, but beyond the revenue, though, you have things like switching from one game to multi. Renee, I know that you've done a lot of like sort of like genre streaming, like Fallout, obviously, big thing. There's and vice versa. Like a lot of people I know, there was a big trend a while back where people were. I'm sorry if you can hear this in the background. I don't know what this is. There's like repeated nukes going off right outside I don't know what it is. But there was a big Tyranny fishbowl issue, and now I have this whatever this other thing is. A big trend where people were like, oh, and some people started talking about it. People were like, oh, if you hit on a single game, a variety is really hard to break out in. But maybe we could pick up a single game and like dive into that and build up the community, and then sort of start working in other stuff or take another direction. And like, this is how I'm gonna make it. I remember this happened. It was maybe like 3 years ago was when I first started hearing about it. And now it can be a pretty common part of the conversation. It's something that I bring up when I'm recommending how to go about making choices on your content and how you're going to approach things. You've obviously got the platform switches themselves. Like Renee's got a lot to say about that probably, and especially just from her own experience. Yeah, like the revenues, like it's such an easy one to talk about, and the entire stream could easily be that. But I also want to make sure that we touch on these other ones.
Sure.
I think that like Renee probably has the best experience whenever you switch games or switch mains, like switch platforms, like you're starting from zero. It doesn't matter if you had an audience in another game. When you switch, just consider you are starting from absolute zero.
Yeah, when I was planning on making the switch, I knew who my regulars were, because thankfully I had the experience, and I know the people who are there day in, day out. I know the people that come to like these things that aren't even on my channel. They come to the shows that I guest on or whatnot. Like those are people that will put in the effort to find where I'm streaming and where I am, and will always show up. And so I knew those people wouldn't have the problem of typing in mixer.com/Renee as opposed to twitch.tv/Renee. I knew those people would figure it out. So that would probably be, I would say that was like roughly 20% of my audience followed me over. Maybe, yeah, I'd say roughly 20%. And
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was actually a lot better than I was expecting. Especially considering the platform, like Mixer is a much newer platform, so it doesn't have the same features that Twitch has, but there's a lot of other really interesting things that I knew that if people stuck around with it, they would actually end up liking those things. It was, change is scary. People don't like change. So I anticipated that going in. But the fact that so many people did come and follow me over made that transition so much easier. Just knowing that there were familiar faces in the chat, even though everything about it was different. I was in a brand new world. It was like, I got to bring my friends with me, basically. It's like when you go away to college, but like your best friend's going to the same college. So it's like, it's crazy and different, but you're like, okay, but I have like my people who are going to be with me thick and thin. So shout out to my regulars. Thank you. I love you guys.
Well, and I think that you can kind of start to gauge that when you're starting out as variety from a one game stream, right? Is that what is your number that is the lowest number, but you can always maintain it, right? Like you will always have this many viewers no matter where you are. And just consider like that is your base. That's the solid foundation that you can build the rest of your stream upon. So yes, like shoot for the stars. You want like 1,000 viewers or whatever, but what you should really be focusing on is how many do I have when I'm not in my usual time slot, when I'm not playing my usual game, or like what are the faces that I see, like Renee was saying, when I'm not even on my own channel that come and see me.
Right.
And that's your foundation. That's what you should like. And I feel like obviously that also can change over time, but it's a lot more reliable to gauge your success based on that than it is to gauge your success based on your highest point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So some of these...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That was all. There's three of us. Rock, paper, scissors.
It's your show. Yes.
I want to talk a little bit more about the platform switching, because I see this pretty often where people are like, do I go on Mixer? Do I go on Twitch? That's like the biggest thing. It's like, do I stream on Mixer? Do I stream on Twitch? And, Renee, like when you switched, like you went from Twitch 100% to Mixer 100%. People like starting out, like I tell them like, like try one for a bit, see how it goes. Try the other one, like kind of test the waters. But with you making such a jump like that, like how much preparation went into making that decision?
I was in talks with Mixer for about a year before I finally actually switched over, because I wanted to make sure that the platform was actually sustainable, that they were going in a direction that I agreed with, and that they were doing things that, they weren't just going to be like MLG and like implode or something. We've all seen or whatever. What was the other one? Starts with an A. All the other ones were like basically if you got banned on Twitch, you went to that platform instead. Right. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't moving to a bad part of town, basically.
Yeah, you don't want to merely be in the gutter of streaming where all the washout.
And initially when I first started talking with Mixer, like they weren't quite there yet. And so I gave them a little bit of time, and I got to know the platform, and I got to know people there, and I asked like their opinions of it and what they came like what the whole thought process was. And I ultimately decided to just do Mixer 100% because I wanted to put, as a broadcaster, I want to put everything that I have into my platform. Not like out of like crazy platform loyalty. It's just that splitting your audience like that, it gets really confusing for your viewers. It gets really confusing for you too. So I just wanted to see, okay, if I put all this energy into this one platform, let's see what can happen of it. I'm going to give it my all, and I'm going to assume that they are giving me their all. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that this platform is going to grow and succeed. So why shouldn't I do the same?
What were some of the big elements that you maybe focused on, or after the switch realized that maybe you should have focused on for making a successful transition from platform to platform?
I really wish I had done more research on like things like like basically you can't use like Streamlabs is there for both, but there's a lot of features on Streamlabs that aren't available for Mixer. There's a lot of things that just aren't available on Mixer yet because people haven't made them. What people forget about Twitch is like early Twitch, everything was third party. Everything was because somebody was like, I want this for my channel, so not everyone did it. But now, obviously, over the years, Twitch has integrated that into their own site. But that's where Mixer is. Everything is still third party. So trying to find those little third party things in like the matter of like 6 months was really, really difficult and took a lot of learning. Like they have a lot of different features that just Twitch doesn't have, like their mixed play board, their Sparks thing, like all these different things that I just didn't have the knowledge of. And I really wish I had, because it would have when people came over to my stream and said, oh, I'm new in Mixer, what's this about? I could have actually had more knowledge.
You have like a good answer.
That's as opposed to just being like, well, I'm also new to Mixer too. Let's find this out together. Yeah. And like some people are super into that, but then other people are like, well, I don't want to do that. Like I'm leaving
work.
I think if I had spent a bit more time researching what features were available on Mixer, it would have been a lot easier. That was the biggest one.
I think like one thing we mentioned earlier is viewers don't like change either. So like if you're bouncing back and forth between a billion different platforms, or like, they have to learn something new, or you're changing your time slot, like from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., like you got to think about like the audience that you have and who you're carrying over. So like, when Renee switched, she went all in because like she already had an audience that she needs to like have follow her, right? Like it's not like when you're just starting out, you can kind of test the waters and get away with it a little bit more because you're still like at that bottom, you're still just kind of like testing things out.
I would honestly say, like, if you're brand new, like haven't streamed at all and not partnered on an affiliate, do the restream thing and just stream to all of them and see for the initial starting out phase, like for first few months, not in terms of growing, just in terms of things that you like about the stream. Like Twitch has the bit split thing. It has a bit more like community based things like the VIP badges, the sub badges, sub tiers. But Mixer also has now like the Sparks thing where you can support a streamer without paying any of your own money. You just support them with currency you get by watching. And they also have a lot of different integrations for Xbox. So if like you're an Xbox streamer, maybe Mixer would be better. If you're more PC esports, maybe Twitch would be better. I think trying all of them is the best option if you're literally brand new. If you're established on one, stick with it for a couple of years and then consider it. But if you've only been streaming for like 6 months, like, well, it's not working out, I'm going to switch. Like you're just splitting your audience. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said here too about like not just changing like your platform, but also like changes in content. We kind of skimmed over it a little bit, but it's been really like a big part of my stream where when I first started, I was playing like a lot of Battlefield 4. And then I like switched over to like a different game, and then I switched to Overwatch. I was playing a lot of Overwatch. And then I was doing creative. And like every time you move from one thing to another, you will lose people. Like there are some people that watch the stream just to watch Overwatch. And when I stopped playing Overwatch, they stopped coming around. And I definitely think that like when I switched from gaming focused to doing like 3 or 4 role-playing shows a week, that was a really big change in audience as well. You gain people from this new content, but you also lose people who are like this isn't really my thing. And I think you just have to weigh like what you want as a person, like what you're interested in. And also like, if I decide that I really love role playing, but then I cannot support myself financially, like there's a balance to be struck, right?
So one of the recommendations that shows up a lot is, and one that's easy, I think, for any of us to make is to ease people into it, audience and self. Mm-hmm. If you're planning on mixing up your content, if you're doing a single game type of stream for like 3 months, and then you want to start moving into the other one, don't stop playing that game altogether. But right. Then, you're doing 8-hour streams, say, 5 days a week, like regular job kind of hours, cutting the last 2 hours out from that game and adding something else in that you want to mix and match. We see that being recommended a lot. Do you think that that's like always the thing that should be done, or is there value in, sometimes? And I don't necessarily mean just.
I force my audience to like most things. Yeah, I used to like ease into things and be like, "Hey guys, we're gonna play a different game." And they're like, "Okay, we'll try this out." But then I'm just like, "Nope, never mind. We're full time this game from now on. That's it, nothing else."
Well, sometimes I think that there's some value there to like building up like an event to it, where it's like, "Hey, we're gonna be doing something fundamentally different on this day in the future, and it's gonna be totally different when it happens, and you're gonna be so happy about it and whatever."
Well, doing like a one-off, I think, is like, okay, like, but like completely switching your entire stream, like from going from like, let's say playing Overwatch to like RPGs, like overnight, like you are going to take that a huge hit. And
guaranteed hit, yeah.
Mentally, that's very, very tough. Like you can prepare for that, but it still is going to hurt, right? Like,
I think the thing is like, why are you making the change?
Yes.
That's a really big thing, because if you change from playing, like if you were doing creative streams like art and stuff and it was your passion, and then you changed to being a Fortnite streamer because you thought you would make a lot of money, but you don't really actually like Fortnite, you're going to hate it. You're not going to like it. And like, it's going to get to you a lot more if it's hard, if it doesn't work out, because you didn't do it for the right reasons. You didn't do it because you wanted to. You did it because you thought it would make you more successful.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Nietzsche has a point with if you have a great why, then you can endure almost any how. If you have that vision for like the purpose of being or doing something, then the choices that you make along the way toward that become, and the challenges that show up in that become much more endurable. You're like, yeah, that's really hard and all, but I'm on my way to that goal. Yeah, I'm doing the thing that drives me.
I think for me, like, it was really helpful for me to at least stick to the same genre, but not necessarily the same game. Mm-hmm. Like, I tend to always stick to shooters, but that's not just like, it's not just Fortnite. It's
There's
like
so many different
types of shooters. Yeah. And then occasionally I would dip my toes into other things, but I've always made it a point to like, I can't play the same game for very long. Right. Like I get into certain habits, like I played Siege for an entire year. I played Fortnite for like 8 months straight.
Oh, I remember Siege. remember the team kills we had together, Renee?
Remember
those
all
were so good. Remember that time I killed you? That was great.
I still have all those gifts. Those are good times. But yeah, I'll definitely get like sucked into games in certain degrees. But I think like that's a very natural course when you like something, you tend to just get kind of obsessed with certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always just tried to always keep a variety. And I think some people think variety is like you need to play a different type of genre all the time, but you don't really necessarily have to do that. As long as you're in like
genre's broad.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you want to play like a shooter and then a Metroidvania and then an RPG and then a tabletop, like if you want to do that, then cool. But variety doesn't necessarily mean that. You can just,
I think that
out and call it.
I think the thing for me that has been really important is like figuring out, because I did do like what has helped me the most was when I switched from mainly gaming to like half gaming, half role play. It was really hard for me because I lost a lot of my like tipping audience. But when what I did was I was like, okay, so if I look at all of these different streams that are doing the same thing as me, that are doing role playing as a thing, like what are audience standards that I can kind of expect? And what I noticed was that role-playing communities were a lot more, they didn't like to interrupt the stream as much, which is why I feel like tips were a little bit lower, because they were used to like, I'm watching a show and I don't want an alert to pop up and ruin my immersion. And they were also a lot more used to subscription services like Twitch subs, and also external subscription services. I noticed a lot of role-playing channels had Patreons that would support the channel in doing the role play, and there were less Twitch subs maybe than there were patrons. And so that was a really big factor in my deciding to start a Patreon. And that itself has evolved in a totally different direction. But it was from taking a look at the audience in the genre I wanted to be in and the ways in which they typically behaved, and saying, okay, like I've been having trouble. I'm not getting what I was used to expecting from my audience prior to this. Why might that be? What are some ways that my new audience is used to behaving, and in what ways can I take that learned behavior and benefit from it myself financially? Because
you make some really good points over and over again. A lot of this really is about asking the right question, in my opinion, because it's really easy to ask the surface question of why
what's
am I
wrong
not
with
getting
me?
enough money? Why am I broken? Am I doing something wrong? As opposed to deeper questions that are really attempting to answer why the change is happening more broadly. What was that? As a Kettering guy who did car stuff, a question well formulated is half answered. Something like that.
All right, philosopher.
No, he did car stuff. He did he did manufacturing things. Just a good quote. But he would this is part of why he's known, and why this quote is known, is because he would go wouldn't just stop at the surface question of why aren't we producing enough stuff? He's like, no, what's really at the root of this thing? Can we ask 5 questions to get deeper into this? And I think exactly the point that you're making, looking at what you're producing, the type of content that you're producing. Like when you're reading a book or you're watching a movie, in the middle of the movie, you don't think, oh man, I'm so glad that I paid money for this so that the people making it could, benefit from that and get you're involved in the movie. All of that other stuff is gone. If the immersion is that deep, that's great. But it doesn't allow in that moment to have that kind of transactional mentality, or I want to make sure I'm supporting economically. So I think in those times you have to look at ways that you can augment supplement or maximize the times when the immersion is not there, or other opportunities that exist, because I think you have to accept that as a fact. When you're doing good storytelling, people are going to be immersed, and therefore they're not going to be actively tipping. It's a different thing.
It's really hard and stupid to have the question you're asking, what's wrong with me? Why aren't people doing this thing for me that they're doing for other people? That's that question.
Well, you can't force people to tip.
That question is going to make you hurt.
Anything. Yeah, it's a super toxic way to view yourself. What am I doing? I spent probably a solid 1.5 years just in the worst mental state, just wondering why are my numbers down? What am I doing wrong? I don't understand this. And ultimately, it wasn't that I was doing anything wrong. That's just the ebb and flow of the world that we live in. We can't all just fucking blow up, and it's not like my whole life was over. I just was floating around the middle, and so that is, I mean.
And it's like, if you want, like, that question will only make you feel bad. Like, if you ask that question, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, that's just putting you in a really bad headspace. And I've been there too.
I think in trying to answer the wrong question can end up getting you into a bad position too. Like trying to pry bar, your way into getting more tips when you're trying to have the immersive thing can end up like ruining the immersion.
I'll have you know, I started wearing low-cut shirts and people started tipping even less. They're like, nah, get it away. Renee put a shirt on.
Do you have a standing desk, by the way?
I do. I'm standing.
You've been wiggling so much, and I'm just like,
that's why I'm standing. I'm trying to get my steps in.
It could be a rolling stool, you're just sitting on the stool.
Or the ball, those exercise balls.
Exercise balls.
I got one of those. I got a little balancing board.
Nice.
I love to balance between work and play and changes.
Oh my God. So fits in the subject.
Honestly, I'm just a really fidgety person in general, so I have a lot of anxiety, so I get it out. Moving. Always.
So like one point I want to make that I want to summarize from what's been said so far is when you're considering making changes, it's a combination of like careful planning and studying what other people are doing. Like if you're trying to switch games, look at people that play, like I give an example of like Warframe, where Warframe, a lot of people play Warframe all the time, except when it's in between updates, the category dies down. What do those streamers go and play? What do they move to? Study, like use other streams as your case studies. Like literally just make it your homework to see like how do people make these changes, because like there's so many different examples. Like our experiences are so different than what you guys are going to see or what you guys are facing. Mm-hmm. Especially with like how much
either, right?
Yeah. I think I just want to rephrase the question just a little bit. I think more than seeing what are other people like streamers doing is like, what are these communities doing? Because it's not just the streamer, it's actually like minority what the streamer is doing. The majority of it is what is the audience doing, because it's like
it's a combo of the two. It's the interplay between those things, I think, because two streamers can make the exact same choice, but because of other underlying factors like personality or how often they make that choice, the types of things that the communities expect, you can get a wildly different thing where one community may have more people show back up and the other one has people disappear for the exact same individual choice. So yeah, I would agree. Yeah. There's got to be a broader assessment to it than that, and I think that's where the doing your homework and like actually like literally writing stuff down in your observations can become really useful.
Yeah, I think especially when you start streaming, you tend to stop watching streamers when you make the transition of like viewer to streamer.
Yes.
I don't watch nearly as many streamers as I'd like to, and that was part of my homework when I did switch to Mixer, was doing that. I was like, I knew I had a couple of friends who were over there and I watched them pretty regularly, but I didn't do enough homework about like all the other people who are on Mixer. I watched like 2 people. And so I was like, well, I need to watch like more people, and that's where I started like finding all these like cool tools and cool features and cool ways to engage my community in different ways. That is why they're on Mixer. They're tools that are only available on Mixer, and I that was where I fucked up.
Yeah, there's a real value in humility there, right? Because it's like don't pretend like no matter how, because like you've been rabidly successful.
That you have it all figured out.
Don't pretend like you've got all the answers.
I recently went on a big old Twitter rant on this and got a lot of people pissed.
Yeah,
because of all these big dogs who are like, well, I don't need to be taught anything. I've been doing this for I knew everything. Yeah. It's like, no, you don't. You know what you did 6 years ago, but times are
that's not the same now.
Right, and you may incidentally find yourself being the old guy on the lawn yelling at the kids.
Yeah, because I literally have nothing to lose by learning more and keeping your mind open. You've nothing to lose.
And there is a real hazard to that kind of hubris. Like you may absolutely, any one of us may in any industry or in personal life and personal goals be able to point to the ways in which our choices have been successful, but that doesn't mean that they always will be. And it gets to be really difficult and problematic to make that assumption that because it always will be. If you're not willing to extend out and look at the ways that you can learn and adapt from people who are finding new success, new forms of it, then I think you may be stuck.
That's like especially the worst part about being stagnant. Like stagnation isn't something that happens it doesn't just happen to your channel out of the blue. Stagnation happens because you are stagnant. You have stopped wanting to learn. You've stopped wanting to watch new things and do new things like that. Stagnation starts from within when it comes to streaming.
And is an interesting,
I believe so.
I think totally to this point. Now I wish I could talk a lot more about this one in particular. We're running close on time. We got to get to our Q&A. Speaking of which, if you have questions, throw them into the chat so we can start getting to them. But stagnation is worse than, I think, metric loss. When you're, I think there are ways in which you can sort of, like just sort of treating it like medically or whatever, or in terms of like an arborist. Sometimes there are limbs that have to be cut off, and you can view that as a loss, but it's a thing that can save the whole. It's or trimming or whatever. There are choices that sometimes you can make that will cause people to leave, but in the end, ultimately make you happier, which makes the people who remain happier, which makes new people who come into the channel feel much more at home than when there's a dead chat, when you are bored and miserable. Even if you have higher numbers in that plateaued situation, it makes for a worse experience all around. You're far more likely to lose money.
Yeah, you're really just what's the word? You're just slowing down the inevitable, because that is exactly my story to a T. Like, I was happy where I was, and I was not really doing anything. I was like, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it,
Yeah.
And here I was, and I was stagnant, and I was fine. Like, I was like, well, at least I'm not dropping, but I'm not gaining. But I'm like, well, this is working, so let's do that. But what was actually happening was just I was slowing the inevitable, and then there was a decline, and the decline happened not because I was doing something wrong. It's because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything. I was doing the same show that I've been doing since fucking 2011, and that was actually, I mean, to answer like the big question that people always ask me, that is personally why I decided to make the switch to Mixer, was because I needed a fire under my ass to reignite my passion for streaming, and I needed to start from zero, which is just the type of person I am. When I was a kid, I would get to the last level of Mario or the last world, and then I would reset my Nintendo and never beat that. Like, that is how I've always been. Like, if I find that it's not working, I'm just like, well, let's just start over. And if I can do it again, starting over, then I know it's not me.
Well, it sort of creates fertile ground there, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, as opposed to starting from zero and like kind of, we were pioneers back then, and we all made mistakes, and I didn't exactly grow my channel and not that there's a right way, but now I get to start from zero and build my channel exactly how I want.
Honestly, that sounds super fun. I play a lot of roguelikes and roguelites.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it's like a roguelike.
I'm totally into this. I'm like, yeah, okay. Let's start from the beginning again. I get to bring a couple of tools with me.
Yeah.
The thing about streaming is like
knowledge that you didn't have before.
Yeah, I mean, with streaming, so much has changed in the last few years, and it's going to continue to change because it is a game of innovation. So you need to constantly be developing new things. Like, change is so important to actually do and go out and do. And part of that comes back to what we were saying about like watching other streamers. Like, you should be looking around and seeing what other people are doing, because like, in a business sense, we are a competition. Like, there are like other people doing awesome things, and like you should be looking around and see what other people are doing.
I would disagree with the terminology of competition, because I truly don't think that streamers, I don't think the four of us are in competition. I think we are all our own individual products. And people can buy all four of us if they want the 4-pack.
Yeah.
They buy one of us, or maybe they buy two of us, whatever. But I think
together.
I think one of the worst things that I did, that the worst mentality I got into, was looking at the streamers as competition, as opposed to resources and knowledge and friendship and people that could actually help me grow, as opposed to things where I'm like, okay, well, how can I do what they're doing but better? It's like,
I think
instead, how can I do what they're doing and how can I do what they're doing and adopt it into my own because I love it so much.
And have them learn back from
that.
Too.
And that's like what I mean by that, right? Like you don't want to look at everyone like that they're out to get you or like you have to be better than them because that's a really toxic mindset.
And that's how you get into the whole like, why are they getting tips and I'm not?
Exactly.
Oh man, the envy is a killer. Okay.
So we do have a couple questions for a Q&A, so let's get into those. Petorioto, I butchered that and I apologize.
No, that's actually pretty
close. Has a question. Okay, cool. Has a question for Renee specifically. How does one decide on making such a huge change as moving from Twitch to Mixer? What kind of factors go into making that decision?
We talked about I guess we kind of touched on that a little bit. Yeah. I really think it needs to be there's no like, well, if it checks all these boxes, then you need to make the switch. I think you should look at both platforms and see what the pros and cons are because there are a lot of pros and cons. And I've never ever said like Mixer is better than Twitch or Twitch is better than Mixer because I genuinely don't believe that. I think they both have their benefits and they both cater to certain audiences and certain personality types. And if that fits with what you're in line with, I mean, like a TLDR, like a quick Mixer has a much younger audience, but at the same time, there's a lot of console people love to watch Xbox. If you're a console player, you'll do really well on Mixer. There's a lot of tools available for people to support you without actually spending money because it's a very young audience. Whereas on Twitch, there's a lot of bits, so people need to be able to have money to support you. For instance, it's a lot more geared. I think on Twitch, there's a lot more geared on being good at games, whereas on Mixer, I genuinely think it's a bit more community based. And obviously you have more potential for exposure on Twitch, but it's easier to get exposure on Mixer.
If you explode on Twitch, you're likely to explode to a much. Not likely. It's possible to explode to a much higher point.
Right.
But the likelihood of exploding is far easier on Mixer. Yeah.
There's just a lot of pros and cons to each platform, and I think it's important to spend a good amount of time on both before you make that decision. And it's got to be personal.
I think all things being equal, the Mixer part of that equation should sound more appealing. That the ease of explosion that it is easier. How can you say the ease is easier? I don't know how words work.
The possibility is easier.
Yeah, it sounds more intoxicating to go like, oh, look at what Ninja does. Look at what those numbers are.
If you want to have like 10,000 viewers, and that's probably not going to happen on Mixer anytime soon. Maybe in a few years. I think Mixer will eventually get there, but at the moment, the top streamer on Mixer can get like 4,000 to 5,000 to 6,000 at the moment. So,
but realistically speaking, statistically, it's not going to happen on Twitch anyway.
I mean, right? The thing is like you look at where Mixer is in its growth and evolution and where Twitch is in its growth and evolution. At the same time, Mixer's doing a lot better than Twitch was when it was only a year old or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
There's a precedent, right?
Yeah. Mixer also has the benefit of they're not going to make the same mistakes that Twitch has
because of that precedent.
They already seen.
That's cool. That's cool.
I mean, another thing is like it doesn't matter what platform you stream on, you still need to develop the skills and have a quality stream at the end of the day. Like you're still starting from the bottom, right?
And I also think you should never rely on exploding. Never.
Oh, yeah.
Never rely on going viral.
I mean, what is it that like we've all been streaming like 4 or 5 years? I don't think any of us have like none of us are Ninja. None of us will ever explode. That's just not something that you can predict or rely on, right?
I would do my journey over and over again before I would ever ask to go from 0 to 10,000. I love just like steady growth over years of time.
And there's that saying, right? Like luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
Like you do the work.
Nailed it.
And maybe someday like it'll happen, but it won't happen if you don't do the work.
Rudism.
Alexa had to go viral.
Yes. All right. There's another question from Aberath that I kind of want to like tap into. Since you all have a lot of experience in variety, does the amount of time you have available to stream affect what games you play? And I think this one's really important.
Oh my God, yes.
I only have 3 hours each stream, and I feel like I have to choose games, quick play games, because I hate stopping in the middle of the story, but I'm afraid I could be pigeonholing myself. And I think you're on the right path. Or I think you should make those kinds of choices. I don't think many people are going to get too annoyed if you pick a story-based game and you don't finish it, because a lot of people are going to miss chunks of story. They're not always going to be there anyway, and that's kind of an acceptance. But if you can have a more rounded playthrough, because it's an inherently shorter game that you can actually nail out, I feel like you do get benefit.
Hey, I'm going to play a game that has like a 200-hour story, but I'm going to play it in 3-hour chunks. So it'll take me approximately 3 years
Yeah,
to finish the playthrough.
Why I never played The Witcher. Like, I wanted to play The Witcher so badly. I'm like, well, if I'm going to play that, it's going to take me literally 5 years to finish that game.
And by then, The Witcher 4 will be out anyway.
Yeah, and I'll be like backlogged on like all these other games. I'm just like, I can't do this.
I feel like this is one of the only benefits to the way that I have traditionally streamed when it comes to things like Assassin's Creed. It's like, I will nail out a 160-hour story in 2 weeks. Like, I can do that. And like, nobody's necessarily bored of the content because it's been relatively short. But that's
Do you just go for main quest? Is that you always?
No, Hunter just never sleeps.
I stream for 12 plus hours a day on that stuff when it comes to a launch game.
Well, that's just ridiculous. Well, actually,
I did
the word stupid
back like 12-hour streams on the release of Fallout 76. So actually, I can't.
That's
I cannot sit in a chair for longer than like 8 hours without going crazy.
Yeah,
that's because you need a better chair. Just saying.
If anyone would like to purchase me a Herman Miller chair, I will take it.
Yeah.
PayPal.me/Bluejay. Thank you.
Get a sit stand desk, and then you can
just like squats.
More. Get the balancing board that I've gotten, and you just wiggle around.
Kappa Tattoo's got a good question too. Like, what if you're the only one streaming what you stream and no one is there to learn from? Like,
there's always someone to learn from.
Yeah, like you don't need to find the exact model of what you do to learn from someone.
If no one else is playing like Caves of Cud or whatever, then find someone who's playing like a similar type of game. There's no game that exists
literally tattooing people.
Well, I mean, okay, like
the first one to do that.
Then look at creative streams.
Yeah, like, look at every creative. Like, it's less about like what that person is doing, and it's more about how is that person interacting with their audience while doing the thing.
There are abstractable principles that you can have, no matter what you can go and look at what a competitive streamer does, and still be able to take something away from that. Not necessarily something that you're like, oh, they're doing this, I should therefore do this. It's like, oh, they're doing this and getting this kind of response. I wonder if I can sort of twist that in my own way and reformat it in a way that's sort of applicable. Or I really need to get that kind of response too. That would go, well, how do I do that in my
as an example, like you just brought it up, Kappa Tattoo does tattoo streaming, and there's not a lot of other people that are doing tattoo streaming. But look at tattoo streaming, and like I'm just like riffing here. I have no idea. But my thought is that you're gonna have to spend a lot of time looking at the tattoo and not at your chat. So then
you're not gonna like what?
Right. So then like if you take a look at an esports gamer who is spending a lot of time looking at the game and not at their chat, you can see what it is that they're doing to keep their audience engaged when they're not able to directly look at chat. And they're not doing the same thing that you're doing at all, but you can still draw like inspiration from what it is that they're doing that is somehow similar to the things that you're doing.
For sure. Like, you probably don't want to copy their instant replay system. That might not be that interesting, but like,
hey, look, I broke this guy's leg. Instant replay.
Having like unique like camera angles, I think is a big thing. And like I would look at other painters. Like they do the same thing. Like they're creative. They stare at what they're working on for a long time. Like how do they handle that?
Yeah.
All good points. I want to get tattooed by Kappa Tattoo.
Yeah, dude.
I want to get tattooed live on stream. That'd be sick.
My first tattoo on stream. That'd be sick.
Do it.
Awesome.
Okay, do we have another question?
We do. King Solar asks, what do you think is the best way to make a huge change in terms of preparing your community, whether it's moving platform or changing from a 100% Fortnite stream to variety, etc.?
Honesty is the best policy.
Transparent. Communicate openly.
I think
treat your audience like people.
Like letting them know ahead of time, like if this is like a plan thing.
Never.
Oh,
I like the idea of marketing it and so you never take the social out of it, right? So exactly what they're saying. At the same time, I think you can look at the psychological value of hype. Now, hype realistically and technically has zero payoff at the end, but talking about the more general version of it, like getting people excited about the change itself, finding a way. I mean, because presumably it's still going to stick with, figuratively your brand. It's still going to stick with who you are, how you treat people, how you interact. That's all going to be the same. You're not suddenly going to become a character streamer that does something completely different, not that kind of a thing. So you can find ways to, whatever it is that's good about this, like why are you actually making that choice? Find a way to pitch that to people and where that benefit's going to be before you ever make the change. Get people excited about the change that's going to come. And then that should be much more appealing to drive it.
Yeah. The reality is that there's certain people who just don't like change. They're going to leave. People are going to leave. People aren't going to like it. People
are going to leave. You stay the same too.
Yeah.
People just going to leave.
People just, it's a very fickle world. So you can.
The truth of life is everyone will leave you.
I just think you can't really like properly prepare. You can never prepare yourself enough, and you can only do.
I do agree.
Your best, and you can, as long as you're open and honest, and you aren't just like day of being like, okay, see you later. I'm going to Mixer now. Like I did a lot of preparation because I wanted people to understand where I went. If you go to my channel now, you see exactly where I am, and people still come into my stream now on Mixer being like, I had no idea where you are, and I follow you on Twitter. And I'm like, well, I go live every day and I post my Mixer links. I don't know how you don't know where I am. Like, people are just there's
only so much that I can do, my dude.
Exactly. There's only so much you can do, and people are just they're just going to see what they want, and they're going to be like, oh, she's somewhere else, out of sight. I don't know.
I kid you not. Last week, someone came into my stream and was like, I didn't know you still streamed. I went to Loco2525 and you weren't there. And I was like, dude, I changed my username like a year and a half ago.
Oh, yeah. When I did my rebrand, because I kind of poor timing, I decided to do my rebrand a few months before I went to Mixer, just because I wanted to, when I made the switch to Mixer, I wanted to have a new brand. I didn't want to bring my old brand with me. But unfortunately, with how Twitch works, they suspend your old accounts, but nobody can take it. So people thought I got banned on Twitch, and that's why I went to Mixer. Like, people were like, where did you go? I thought you were banned. I'm like, no.
It's like an understandable technical detail, but that creates a problem.
I didn't realize that was what people thought. I thought that it was obvious because, like, Twitter exists, and I talked about it on stream a ton. And, like,
it always happen.
People are just like, oh, I thought you got banned. Lol, lol, lol.
Well, Renee. I think that the like as a kind of an end cap, the point is that, like, I was making a joke before, but nobody owes you anything. They don't owe you viewership. Like, Twitch doesn't owe you a partnership. Like, there's no deserving. There's no I'm a good person or a good gamer or like I have a good stream setup, so like I should be successful. So I missed that, but I think you were making fun of me. So.
No, I said, as we've discovered, it's probably better to just be a worse person.
Yeah, just be an awful person. But just the idea that, like, if you do make a change in your life or your stream, and anyone at all comes back, like, even if all you do is like the next, like, you stream one day and then you stream the next day, and anyone at all comes back, like, that is like you're winning. Like, you are successful. Like, it doesn't matter if, like, you change from Fortnite to painting streams and you get like 2 viewers because those 2 people came back. And you should be grateful. Like,
I was saying earlier, like, the regulars that came with me to Twitch to Mixer were like, it was so amazing to have them there. Yes, there were less people in the chat, but knowing that even those people were there was enough for me to be like, all right, I'm not alone. I'm going to be okay. I can figure this out, and we're going to do it together. As opposed to being like, oh, well, there's only 20 people here now. Like, that's
and the more you focus on the people who aren't there, the people who are there are gonna fucking like,
and they become irrelevant. They feel unloved, and for good reason. When you're like, oh man, how many people aren't here? It's like, dog, I'm right here. I'm here.
I
think that's what you should take out of it.
Is when people stream, they're like, oh, well, there's nobody here, so
I'm leaving. No, and then, like, that's the main thing is, like, you make changes, the platform itself changes, like shit happens, and there's a way that you can be prepared, like we were talking about, like you can be prepared mentally, you can be prepared financially, you can be prepared, like prepare your own audience for what you're going to change. But like in the end, just like not being an asshole and focusing on the things that you don't have or the things that you lost. Like focus on the things that you still have, or the things that you enjoy.
The single best thing that you can utilize, and this is so cliche of me at this point to say it all the freaking time. Look, already on it. The single best thing that you can have to give yourself the best advantage when it comes to enduring change, the ups or the downs, is vision. Again, if you've got that target at the far end, the vision. If you've got that target at the far end, when stuff starts piling on, it becomes easier to endure, because you're like, now that I've been hit with this big change that I have to make, how does it still work toward that final goal? As opposed to just pushing against the one thing that's coming at you, it's easy to get bogged down by that. And likewise, when it comes to metrics, the metrics don't matter. Metrics only matter insofar as they get you toward some other goal. They don't matter in and of themselves. If you are getting lower viewer count, not that viewers are like underground now, if you're getting a lower viewer count, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean that something's bad. If the quality of the engagement is higher, you could also be generating more revenue for having half of the people that you normally do. There have been tons of streams that I've had where the viewer count was significantly higher, and the same thing we were talking about at the beginning of the show, for any number of reasons. I will get significantly fewer tips, way fewer, with having like double or triple my normal viewer count. It's not inherently better. Some people will feel like they're not being paid attention to because there's a lot more people in chat. Some people will feel like I don't need assistance anymore. Like they were helping me out before. And like, maybe it's like, oh, they're good. I'll just not watch or not tip or whatever. Now, any number of reasons that roll into that, or people are just immersed in the comedy and joy.
Yeah.
Any number of reasons.
I think not
necessarily good.
I think a very astonishing thing that I've come to learn and realize, and this isn't necessarily in terms of change, I guess this is more of a mental health standpoint, is even though on Mixer, obviously I have a significantly lower viewership, and people come to my stream and they're like, oh, she made this change and now she has like half her viewership. But what people don't realize is that I am so much happier now than I've been in like 5 years streaming on Twitch. Yeah. And I don't look at my channel and be like, wow, I'm failing. Like I see what I've done as such a huge success. And it bums me out when other streamers are like, well, why'd you go over there? Like you have half the viewership. And I'm like, I'm sorry that you think viewership is what is in terms of happiness, because that's just not the case.
Oh, praise.
There's obviously like viewership will help with certain things, but when people say like numbers don't always matter, I didn't really understand that until I switched over to a platform that put a fire under my ass and inspired me and made me feel passionate about what I do again. And now I'm like that, yep. that fire has just like made me so I feel like I have a purpose again, is the best way I can explain
Campbell's law. When the metric becomes the aim, you now have a bad metric and a bad aim.
Yeah.
It poisons the entire well. You're no longer looking at anything that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and I'm just like, because I'm so much happier, I now like I will take more risks and I do more things, and I feel like I have this freedom that I didn't have before, because I felt like I needed to do what I always did because that's what people signed up for, because they've been watching for 6 years, whatever. And I feel like I'm free, I guess. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That is. And with that is going to be our parting words as we wrap up the show today.
Perfect outro.
Renee, Bluejay, thank you guys so much for joining us on the show. Really appreciate it. Let's do some shout outs. Renee, where can we find you? And I will make sure we link you without getting timed out.
It's super easy. My name is the same everywhere across the board. You can find me on Mixer at mixer.com/Renee, twitter.com/Renee, Instagram.com/Renee. Even on Twitch, /Renee. Like it's very easy. Literally /Renee everywhere.
So simple. I wish that I could be that simple. My name's all over the place. I hate it.
What are those places and the names, Bluejay?
Good transition, Hunter. You're doing it. You can find me at twitch.tv/Bluejay, and I wish I could say Bluejay, but I can't. On Twitter,
it's accidentally tagged the wrong one
right?
on Twitter.
It was a typo.
How
okay?
embarrassing.
I know. Well, the right Twitter is Bluejay_712. And then everywhere else it's Bluejay712 without the underscore. There is a Bluejay712 Twitter, and they have one tweet.
Dude, and that's the Hunter Wild on Twitter too.
It's drinking and ... and that's the tweet.
And I like how you have it memorized. Like, well, it's one staring at this tweet. You're just like
tweet, and I'm just like, what?
People always ask me, they're like, Renee, how'd you get the name changed? And I'm like, I can't tell you. Because I can't. Like, the person doesn't want me to tell anyone.
Taunting.
Man. Well, the thing is that there is no Bluejay Instagram, but they won't let me take it.
Oh, I wonder if it got banned or something.
I don't know. I just I want it so badly. It's just sitting there taunting me, empty, silent, alone, and I want it so badly. But I can't have it, so.
Maybe one day.
Someday, when I'm super famous like Ninja, they'll give it to me.
You got the blue hair. You're halfway there.
I know. That's all it takes, right? So blue hair and something else. I'll just name myself, what's another, not my culture person that I can name myself after? I'll just be, instead of Ninja, I'll be Samurai.
Assassin.
And no, I mean, Assassin's not.
It's pretty multicultural.
Yeah, it's pretty multicultural. You have to steal someone else's culture.
Assassin is multicultural, isn't it?
What? Assassin?
Assassin. It's more multicultural than samurai.
No, the point is to not be multicultural.
Oh, I see.
Because I'm really white, and so is Ninja.
No, stepping on now. I got.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Your stream is gonna be banned now
because you're already taking another species,
right?
That's even more.
I should be famous. The birds, they just don't care.
Well, I'm the Hunter Wild. I'm gonna be streaming. Kingdom 2 Crowns. It was going to come to me. Kingdom 2 Crowns, an indie title that I freaking love the original 2. It's so beautiful. You can find me all over the places, the Hunter Wild. Except on Twitter, it's the Hunter Wild TV. Until I fisticuffs the person who has not tweeted in 6 years.
Jeez.
But I love you.
I love you more. I love you guys more than Hunter loves you. Just FYI.
The competition.
Well, I love Hunter more than you love them more than Hunter loves them. That's
Oh, what is this, a Turing test? I can't.
I will have you know, based on the number of steps I have, I probably have a bigger heart and therefore a more capacity to love.
Bigger hearts are dangerous and you'll probably die. So
yeah, but I'll die thinking of all the viewers.
Loco, where can we find your wholesome content on Twitch and Twitter that's not about death and heart size?
I love you guys a good amount, so there you go. You can have
Loco's that. I'm not competing.
I just love.
I have some love. So you can find me at twitter.com/loco2525, twitch.tv/loco, and you can find us here on the StreamerSquare channel if you guys like this content. We do shows every single week. We usually have a show right after this, but Your Brand, Your Business is not doing a show today.
Not this week.
They're recovering from the view boat. So I will be here tomorrow at 4 p.m. doing the Stream Doctor, where I review channels. So if you guys want to submit your channel tomorrow, I will literally give you personal feedback about your stream. It's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. You guys can also ask questions about streaming too. Other than that, you can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Discord, and our website, StreamerSquare everywhere.
And check us out on Patreon too.
Oh yes,
where you can not only get some exclusive stuff like the behind the scenes from today's show, like the before
there was
and after.
some
good
hot
quality
conversation before this one. I'll have you know.
Yeah,
Renee was gonna take her shirt off.
A really good picture of Hunter on there, so go look at it. Even if you're not gonna patron, just go and look at it. Just keep it up on your monitor all the time.
There's something for everybody.
Your phone wallpaper or something.
Yeah, make the Patreon picture your phone wallpaper.
Or here we go for Christmas when we all have to go home this season, and they're like, "Do you have a boyfriend yet?" And you're like, "Yeah,
Look at my
There he
boyfriend. It's the Hunter Wild.
Hunter will be your fill-in
What's
boy.
his real name? It's the Hunter Wild.
Well, it is.
His name is Hunter. It's easy.
No, you have to say his name is his Twitch URL.
First name Hunter, last name Wild.
Yeah.
The Hunter Wild.
He's my boyfriend. He's real. He lives in Canada.
I can follow that grenade. Sure. Yeah. I mean,
anyways, that's gonna do it for us, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. Check out these lovely guests that were on our show today.
Absolutely.
And,
Renee's gone.
See you soon. She's gone. She's out.
She's getting
Kitty.
Follow Renee for the cat.
Special guest. You were supposed to save Zoe's nudes for the Patreon, Renee.
Yeah. I'm just gonna cut this out. All right, we're leaving.